Okay, so they said that no one could have predicted the 2008 housing recession. We know from movies and books that that is definitely not true. There's a small cohort of people that definitely saw it coming and saw it coming with blaring bells on. Does that make sense? Is that the phrase that people say? I don't think it is. Anyway, there are four billionaires right now warning of the same thing coming down the pipeline for this year. Who are they? What are they saying? WTF? Let's look at this. So, this is very interesting because a lot of the billionaires talk about. Oh, before we get into it, I do real estate content on this channel. There are hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok about real estate content, and we're starting up a YouTube channel. I am a house flipper, flipped about 100 houses and sold about 200 as a real estate agent. If you have any questions about being an agent, any questions about being a house flipper, shoot me a little email. You can go like this with your little hands and send it. Okay, so this came out a few days ago. So Elon Musk predicts home prices will crash next, tweeting commercial real estate is melting down fast. Now, this has been echoed. We're going to go through the top four billionaires saying that the housing meltdown is coming. And this has been echoed by another one of the billionaires, specifically in the commercial market. Now, it's not a huge new idea that the commercial market is melting down. It's been on a general decline for many years, right? Retail's going away, office space is going away, remote workers, etc. But he doubled down on it and said this is melting down fast. And the issue, he added, won't stop there. He said home values next. And this was back in May 29 when he said that. He was replying to a tweet by the Craft Ventures founder David Sachs, who posted a Bloomberg article about almost 1.5 trillion of U.S. commercial real estate debt comes due for repayment at 2025. Now, the other billionaire that we're going to talk about kind of stated the same thing, that there's a banking crisis in the commercial industry. Now, we have to know, and we do know, that all of these are intertwined. All of these are connected. We have not seen a crash like this happen before, so we will not be able to tell exactly where it's going to come from if it does come. I definitely think we are on the down slope for the housing market and for the housing and home prices right now. And I can definitely see it springing up and the warning bells, blah, 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 starting in the commercial space and then coming around to the residential space. Because when that goes, this will go too. And it's really odd, but I'll tell you what's odd in a second. So he already had talked about the alarm in the sector, saying that commercial real estate debt held on some banks' balance sheets could push the economy to the brink of the disaster. He said this is by far the most serious looming issue, and mortgages too. So over the next 5 years, more than 2.5 trillion in commercial real estate debt will mature, by far more than any 5-year period in history. So that, coupled with, of course, rising interest rates, tighter lending conditions due to the turmoil in the regional banking sectors, and low office occupancy, makes for an explosive mix. We can see that investors have begun voicing concerns about the balance sheet vulnerabilities of regional banks and more specifically their exposure to commercial real estate. Those concerns are not without merit. Compared to big banks and small banks hold 4.4 times more exposure to U.S. CRE commercial loans than their larger peers. Within that cohort of small banks, CRE loans make up 28% of the assets compared with only 6.5% of the big banks. So this is going to be wild. All right, so that's one. He goes and doubles down to say that there's a severe recession and there's latency in the Fed's info. So basically he's saying that the Fed is cutting rates so fast, and there's latency in seeing what results that comes and bears on the market, right? He basically says that, okay, like you can't just cut rates and then see what happens that same day or even that same month or even that same quarter. He said there's latency in that, so it's going to take a second to boil down and to see what all these things that they've done is really going to do. So he replied to a tweet by Lawrence Summers. He said, if the Federal Reserve does what's necessary to contain inflation, I think a slowdown is likely to come. The odds of that happening sometime in the next 12 months I think are pretty good, perhaps 70%. He said Fed data has too much latency. Mild recession is already here. It's not like just the canary in the coal mine. SVB died. One of the staunchest miners, Credit Suisse rather, died too, and the cemetery is filling up fast. Further rate hikes will trigger severe recession. Mark my words. So we can see right there, and people went ape about that one. Third billionaire talking about it is Charlie Munger. He says the U.S. commercial property is in trouble. So I think this is, for me, all the information I need about the commercial banking industry, saying that it is teetering on the brink of disaster. And I think we're just going to see it get worse and worse and worse. These are interesting because with retail buyers and kind of regular residential homes, you have a lot of people affected. So it's easy to lobby Congress, and it's easy to be on news shows, and it's easy to kind of get some relief from the government to step in. But commercial is different, right? Obviously, a lot of rich people own it, so there is some power there with what they say with lobbying the government. But it's not going to be this huge thing that all these news channels and residential buyers are going to notice until it's too late, I think. So he believes there's trouble ahead for the U.S. commercial property market. 99-year-old investor, isn't that crazy? They're packed with bad loans that will be vulnerable as bad times come and property prices fall. It's not nearly as bad as 2008, he says. He said, but trouble happens in banking just like trouble happens elsewhere. So I think that's so true. Another Republican billionaire is staying in California. Peter Thiel says he will keep his business in California, citing excessive home prices in Miami as a reason he won't move his operation to Florida. Home prices are sharply increased over the past year as a lack of inventory spurs steep prices and mortgages grow increasingly more expensive to acquire. California is well known for its housing prices, but Miami housing prices are steep enough to scare even billionaire PayPal co-founder Thiel away. He said, in addition, mortgages are among the consumer borrowing costs that have soared since the Federal Reserve began raising interest rates. So kind of crazy on that one. And our last billionaire investor, Jeffrey Green, made $800 million betting against the latest housing bubble. He just rang the U.S. alarm bells for U.S. real estate. He said he sounded the alarm bells on commercial real estate, said that offices would be hit hard if recession struck, and AI eliminated some white-collar jobs. Green pocketed about $800 million by predicting and betting against the 2000s housing bubble. So he says, we are heading into a highly frightening time in the entire real estate industry. He says many businesses and consumers would fall behind on their rent and mortgage payments because of higher interest rates and struggle to secure financing as banks pull back from lending. He said the pain in commercial real estate was only just the beginning. Some parts of a heavily leveraged sector face crippling debt costs and a credit crunch, pressure on asset values, and a structural shift towards remote and hybrid working. So what's happening in the office space today? This is before the slowdown. He said that we have to wait until the recession. So this is wild and crazy. He said that historic amounts of fiscal and monetary stimulus during the pandemic will still shore up demand and employment in the U.S. economy, staving off a surge in late payments and foreclosures. However, he said that companies would pair their workforces and office spaces as the economic picture darkened and higher borrowing costs squeezed them. So he says also AI is going to kick in. That's going to be a sledgehammer to the white-collar jobs. So what do y'all think about this? What are you doing to optimize your real estate portfolio and to kind of set yourself up for success? Barbara Corcoran, also a real estate maven, Maverick, said corporate tenants were starting to fall behind on their monthly payments, which could spell trouble for commercial real estate. I don't see that turning around. I think it's going to be a bit of a bloodbath before it gets better. I do too. Like and subscribe to the channel. Reach out to me if you want any kind of personalized advice going through your real estate journey now.